My wife got a new job and started dressing up every day. She said, "It's a creative office. Image matters." Then she started coming home smelling like cigars. I don't smoke. Her work husband laughed too hard at her jokes at the company picnic. Then my daughter said, "Mommy has a second daddy." I hired a PI. The photos were devastating. Instead of confronting her, I let her family find out during Easter dinner, when I handed out printed photos inside plastic eggs. Her brother punched the wall. She never showed up again. I used to think my life was steady. Nothing fancy. Just normal. I'm from Killeen, Texas. Born and raised. My dad worked construction. My mom cleaned houses. We didn't have much, but we had enough. I joined the army after high school. Did my time. Came home. Got a job running freight and supply lines for a warehouse company just outside of town. Met Sabrina when I was 19. She was 17 and worked at the Dairy Queen by the highway. She had this laugh. Loud and messy, like she didn't care who was watching. We got married young. Bought a little 3-bedroom house. Had Abby 2 years later. I thought we had it made. For a long time, Sabrina stayed home with Abby. We didn't have a lot of money, but we managed. Then when Abby turned 6, Sabrina said she was thinking about going back to work. "I just want to feel like myself again," she said one night after Abby went to bed. I didn't argue. I knew she gave up a lot to be a full-time mom. Art school. Her painting dreams. Everything. So when she got hired at some fancy marketing firm in Austin, I was proud. Even though the commute was rough, an hour each way, she was excited. Said the office was super, creative, and image mattered a lot. Said everybody there dressed sharp. I didn't think anything of it when she started wearing makeup every morning. Or when she bought new clothes, high heels, tight skirts, new bras. I figured she deserved to feel good about herself. But the changes didn't stop there. She started working later. Coming home after Abby was already asleep. She started spending weekends at team building retreats or client dinners. And she started smelling like cigars. Thick and heavy, like she'd been sitting next to a guy smoking a fat stogie. I don't smoke. None of our friends smoke. Neither does her family. I asked her about it once while we were doing dishes. She barely looked up. "Oh, it's just from the office. A couple guys smoke outside. It sticks to your clothes. Gross, right?" She smiled like it was no big deal. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Then came the company picnic. Big event out at Lake Travis. They rented a whole field, put up tents, catered barbecue, beer trucks, bounce houses for the kids. Sabrina was glowing that day. New dress. Big smile. Nervous energy. She introduced me to Brent. "Brent's my office husband," she said, laughing and bumping him with her hip. Brent shook my hand. Squeezed it just a little too hard. He laughed at everything Sabrina said. Too hard. Too loud. I stood there with a fake smile plastered on my face, watching him lean in too close. Watching the way Sabrina touched his arm when she talked. The way she used to touch mine. I knew. I knew right then. Still, I tried to shove it down. Tried to be the good husband. The understanding guy. But then Abby said it. The night that changed everything. We were sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal for dinner. Sabrina had texted that she was stuck at work again. Abby, sweet and innocent, said, "Mommy has a second daddy." I put down my spoon. "What do you mean, kiddo?" She shrugged. "Sometimes a man picks me up from school with Mommy. He buys me ice cream. He says I'm his favorite girl." I felt something break inside me. Not snap. Not explode. Break. Like a slow, deep crack running down the middle of everything I thought was true. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or shout. I called the guy I served with, Mike, who now runs a private investigation firm out of Waco. Told him I needed some answers. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Give me a week." A week later, Mike handed me a manila envelope. No words. Just a heavy look. I waited until I was alone to open it. There were photos inside. Sabrina. Brent. Holding hands. Leaning into each other outside his car. Checking into a Holiday Inn off I-35. Pictures of them taking Abby out for ice cream like they were a family. There was one photo that nearly made me puke. Brent's hand on Sabrina's ass as they kissed in the parking lot, Abby standing right there holding Sabrina's purse. It wasn't just sex. It was betrayal on a level I didn't even know existed. I didn't tell Sabrina I knew. I played dumb. Smiled when she kissed my cheek goodnight. Said, "Have a good day," when she left for work in the morning. Because I had a plan. And Easter was coming up. Every year, Sabrina's whole family came to our house for Easter dinner. Her parents. Her brothers. Their wives and kids. Big ham dinner. Egg hunts for the little ones. Beer and football in the backyard. It was tradition. This year, I made sure it would be one they never forgot. I went to Walmart and bought 3 big packs of those oversized plastic Easter eggs. Got them home. Sat at the kitchen table. Printed out every photo Mike gave me. Some PG. Some not. Stuffed one photo into each egg. The night before Easter, while Sabrina was asleep upstairs, I hid those eggs all over the backyard. Some in easy spots. Some harder. Easter Sunday came. Sabrina acted normal. Laughing. Hugging. Showing off the new dress Brent probably picked out. Her mom told me, "You're such a lucky man. Sabrina's glowing these days." I just smiled. "Yeah," I said. "She sure is something." After dinner, we let the kids loose for the egg hunt. Then I called out to the adults. "Hey, I hid some eggs for you guys too. Special prizes inside." They laughed, grabbing beers, joking around. One by one, they started finding the eggs. One by one, they started opening them. The first gasp came from Sabrina's mom. Then a sharp, "Jesus Christ," from her dad. Her brother Mark opened his egg, stared at the photo, and his whole face turned red. He stormed over to the house and punched a hole clean through the drywall next to the back door. The room turned into chaos. Sabrina stood frozen, holding an unopened egg in her hand. I watched her face crumble as her mom screamed at her. Watched as her dad said words I won't repeat here. Watched as her brother shouted that he'd kill Brent if he ever saw him. Abby started crying, confused and scared. And me? I just stood there. Silent. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't swing a fist. I just let her destroy herself. Finally, Sabrina ran inside. Packed a bag so fast clothes were flying everywhere. She didn't even look at me when she walked out the door. She drove off without saying goodbye. She didn't come back. After Sabrina left that night, the house was dead silent. Her family trickled out one by one. Nobody said much. Not even goodbye. The backyard was still littered with plastic eggs. Half of them cracked open, little glossy photos scattered in the grass. I didn't bother picking them up. I just sat on the back porch with a beer, staring at the hole Mark punched in the wall. Abby was asleep upstairs. She cried herself to sleep. The next few days were a blur. Sabrina didn't call. Didn't text. Nothing. Then late one night my phone lit up. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. I did. "Sabrina got fired," Mike said, his voice low. "She's not just out of a job. Word got around about her and Brent. Company didn't like it." I leaned back in my chair, feeling nothing. "She's been crashing at some friend's house in Austin." "Not Brent's." I raised an eyebrow. "Turns out Brent's engaged," Mike said, a little amused. Fiancé found out everything at the same time Sabrina's family did. The fallout spread wider than I expected. Brent's fiancé posted everything online. Pictures. Screenshots. tagged Sabrina's company and Brent's. It blew up. Sabrina's name got dragged through the mud. People from her high school even commented. Some of them posted old stories about her that I never knew. Things about parties. About cheating. About lies. Things that made me realize, maybe I never really knew her at all. Then the letters started showing up. Divorce papers, sure, that was easy. She didn't fight. But then came letters from Sabrina's parents. One from her mom. One from her dad. Handwritten. Begging me not to cut them off from Abby. Begging me not to punish them for their daughter's choices. They swore they had no idea. Swore they hated what she did. I sat at the kitchen table, reading those letters over and over. I didn't know what to do. Then Sabrina's mom showed up. Uninvited. Just knocked on the door one rainy Saturday morning. I opened the door and there she was, clutching a homemade pie like it was a peace offering. She stood there, soaked to the bone, pie shaking in her hands. "Please," she said. "Just let us see Abby. Please." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face. But part of me remembered that not all sins are shared. I let her in. Abby lit up when she saw her grandma. They played checkers. Made brownies. For a few hours, it almost felt normal again. I sat back and watched it all, a ghost in my own house. Later that night, after Abby went to bed, Sabrina's mom sat down at the kitchen table. Her hands twisted in her lap. "I want you to know," she said quietly, "that what she did, it broke all of us too." I didn't say anything. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. I shrugged. "Raise my daughter." She nodded like she understood. But she didn't. Not really. Nobody did. A week later, Sabrina called. First time since she left. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was shaky. She apologized, sort of. Said she missed Abby. Said she wanted to talk about visitation. I didn't answer. I called my lawyer instead. That's when things got uglier. Sabrina filed a motion for joint custody. Claimed she had repaired her life. Said she was getting therapy. Said she had a new apartment, a new job, a stable environment. I wasn't buying it. Not after she abandoned Abby without a word. Not after she chose Brent over her own daughter. My lawyer advised me to fight it. And I did. Hard. The court battle was brutal. Sabrina showed up to the hearings looking tired, worn out, but still trying to play the victim. She cried on the stand. Talked about postpartum depression and feeling lost. She spun a good story. But I had the truth. I had the photos. I had the witnesses. I had the proof she abandoned her child for a man who was never going to stay. The judge wasn't buying her act either. He granted me sole custody. Sabrina got supervised visits once a month at a state-run family center. When Abby found out, she didn't say much. She just asked me if Mommy was sick. I told her the only thing I could. Mommy made bad choices. But we're going to be okay. And we were. We are. After the custody ruling, I thought it was over. I thought maybe Sabrina would fade out of our lives. Move on. Start fresh somewhere else. But people like Sabrina don't just move on. They look for new ways to stay important. It started small. Little notes in Abby's backpack after her supervised visits. Mommy loves you so much. Mommy's sorry. Mommy's making a new home for you. At first, I let it slide. I figured Abby needed to hear it. Even if it was just Sabrina clinging to whatever scraps of motherhood she had left. But then one day, Abby came home from a visit clutching a key. A real house key. I asked her where she got it. Mommy gave it to me, she said proudly. She said anytime I want, I can come live with her. My blood ran cold. Sabrina wasn't just trying to stay in Abby's life. She was trying to turn her against me. I called my lawyer. Filed for a cease and desist. Filed to have her visitation rights revoked. The judge ordered an investigation. When the family sent to review the tapes, it was all there, Sabrina whispering to Abby about someday leaving Daddy, telling her Mommy's house is way more fun, promising trips to Disney World, puppies, a room full of toys, trying to buy her love, trying to steal my daughter away one sweet lie at a time. The court cut off Sabrina's visits immediately. She wasn't allowed to contact Abby at all, no calls, no letters, nothing. Until she completed a full psychological evaluation and 6 months of therapy. I thought Sabrina would give up after that. Most people would have. But not her. A month later, my truck's tires were slashed. Police report. Insurance claim. No proof it was her. 2 weeks after that, someone threw a brick through my front window. Again, no proof. Just suspicion. And then came the worst. I picked Abby up from school one afternoon, and the principal asked to speak with me. Apparently, someone had called the school pretending to be me. Said there was a family emergency. Said they were sending a friend to pick Abby up. Luckily, the school's secretary thought it sounded fishy and called me directly. When I checked the call log, the number was blocked. But I knew. Sabrina was trying to take Abby. I called Mike again. Told him I needed more than surveillance now. I needed protection. He set me up with a private security company. Ex-military guys who knew how to keep eyes on my house, my work, Abby's school. For the next few months, I lived like we were under siege. Alarms. Cameras. Armed guards during pickup and drop-off. Abby never knew. To her, it was just Daddy's new friends. But I knew. I wasn't going to lose her. Not like that. Not after everything. One night, about 3 months into this madness, Mike called me. We found her, he said. My stomach tightened. Found who? Sabrina. He sent me a photo. It was Sabrina, all right. Sitting at some dive bar in Austin, slumped over, a half-empty bottle in front of her. She looked rough. Tired. Beaten. But the worst part wasn't how she looked. It was who she was with. Brent. The same Brent. The same who threw away his own fiancée. There he was, sitting next to Sabrina, laughing it up like nothing ever happened. Mike dug a little deeper. Turned out Brent never really left. He strung Sabrina along all this time. Told her he loved her. Told her they'd be together once he figured things out. Meanwhile, he was living with another woman in Round Rock. Running the same scam all over again. Sabrina had become the side piece. The backup plan. The fool. When I saw those pictures, I felt nothing. Not pity. Not anger. Just emptiness. She destroyed our family for that. But the story wasn't over. Not yet. Because a few weeks later, Sabrina's lawyer filed a motion. She wasn't just trying to get visitation back. She was suing me for parental alienation. Claiming I had poisoned Abby against her. Claiming Abby didn't want to see her because of me. The court date was set. And this time, Sabrina wasn't coming alone. She was bringing Brent. The day of the court hearing felt like walking into a storm. I wore my best suit. Pressed shirt. Shined shoes. Hair combed clean. Not because I wanted to impress anyone. But because I wanted the judge to see who was steady. Who was safe. Who deserved to raise Abby. Sabrina showed up late. Dragging Brent behind her like a piece of trash stuck to her shoe. He wore a cheap jacket that didn't fit and sunglasses inside the courthouse like he was somebody important. When they walked in, the room got quiet. Even the other lawyers sitting around waiting for their cases stared. Brent had his arm around Sabrina's shoulders, grinning like this was some kind of joke. Sabrina looked smaller than I remembered. Like the weight of everything had finally caught up with her. The hearing started. Sabrina's lawyer stood up first, rattling off a bunch of claims. I was alienating Abby. I was brainwashing her against her mother. I was violating Sabrina's rights as a parent. He pointed at Brent and said, This man can testify to Sabrina's stable living conditions and character improvements. I almost laughed. Almost. When it was my turn, my lawyer tore them apart. Piece by piece. We had the school call logs, the reports from the private security, the taped conversations from the supervised visits. We had everything. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every desperate attempt to steal Abby away. We showed the judge the pictures Mike took, Sabrina and Brent drunk at a bar, barely able to stand. We showed character witness statements from Sabrina's own family, who backed me up 100%. Even her mother testified. In tears, she said, "Sabrina's not the woman she used to be. She needs help, not custody." Brent took the stand too. Tried to spin some story about how he was rebuilding Sabrina's life and helping her find stability. My lawyer asked him one simple question. "Mr. Brent, how many active restraining orders have been filed against you by former partners?" Brent's face twisted up. "Objection." Sabrina's lawyer barked. But it was too late. The judge allowed it. Turns out Brent had two. Both recent. Both for harassment and emotional abuse. When that came out, Sabrina's whole case crumbled right there in the courtroom. The judge didn't even waste much time. He threw the motion out. Not only that, he extended Sabrina's no-contact order for another full year. Ordered her into mandatory therapy. And warned her that if she kept pushing, she could lose her parental rights permanently. After the hearing, Brent tried to puff up his chest at me in the hallway. "You think you're better than me?" he spat. I looked him dead in the eye. "I don't think about you at all." He shoved me. Hard. Right there in the courthouse. Security dragged him off before I even had to lift a finger. Last I heard, he spent the night in county jail. Sabrina didn't even look at me. She just sat on the courthouse bench, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. I walked right past her. I had nothing left to say. But just when I thought it was over, one night, about 2 months later, there was a knock at the door. It was raining hard. I looked through the peephole. It was Sabrina. No umbrella. Soaked. Barely standing. I almost didn't open it. But something in me, some old, broken part of me, turned the knob. I cracked the door just enough to hear her. She looked up at me, hair plastered to her face, and said, "I have nowhere else to go." Sabrina stood there on my porch, dripping wet, begging with her eyes. "I have nowhere else to go," she said again, voice cracking. I looked at her. Really looked. And for a second, I saw the girl I married. The girl who used to paint until 2 in the morning. The girl who held my hand when we found out Abby was coming. But then the memories came flooding back. The photos. The smell of cigars. The second daddy. The lies. The way she left Abby crying herself to sleep. I stepped outside, pulling the door closed behind me. She flinched like she thought I was going to yell. I didn't. I kept my voice calm. "You're not welcome here," I said. Tears spilled down her face. "Please," she whispered. "I'll sleep on the porch. I just need a place to think. You should have thought about that before you burned everything down." She started sobbing harder. "I made mistakes," she said. "I know that. I didn't know how to fix it. I thought if I made Abby love me more, you'd have to forgive me." Her words made me sick. She didn't care about Abby. She cared about herself. About winning. About not losing. "You need to leave," I said, stepping back. She reached out, grabbing my sleeve. "Where am I supposed to go?" she cried. I looked her dead in the eye. "Go to Brent." "Oh wait, he dumped you too, didn't he?" Her face twisted in pain. "Good. Let her feel it. Let her taste even a piece of what she did to us." "You chose him over your family," I said. "You don't get to come crawling back now." I pulled free from her grip. Stepped inside. Closed the door in her face. Locked it. I stood there for a while, forehead resting against the door. Listening. I heard her sobs. I heard her banging on the door, pleading. Then, after a long time, silence. When I finally looked through the window, she was gone. Just the storm, washing away her footprints. Later that night, I found a voicemail from her. Her voice was quiet, broken. "I'm sorry," she said. "Tell Abby, tell her I love her. Even if she never wants to see me again." I deleted it without listening to the rest. Sabrina moved out of state. I heard she ended up in Louisiana, bouncing from job to job. Never stable. Never grounded. She never filed for visitation again. Never sent birthday cards. Never showed up. She disappeared from our lives like a bad dream fading at sunrise. As for me, I rebuilt. It wasn't easy. Some nights, I still woke up thinking she was next to me. Some days, Abby asked questions I didn't know how to answer. But we survived. We made new traditions. New memories. A new life. People say revenge is petty. Maybe they're right. But I'll tell you this, there's nothing petty about protecting your child from someone who threw her away. There's nothing petty about showing someone exactly what they lost when they chose selfishness over family. And there's nothing petty about surviving.